Well, a very pleasant good evening to everybody. And I want to welcome you to our Family Life Enrichment series. We are going to be having a fantastic session tonight. I assure you that. It is great that you have joined us on YouTube. And we are looking at desirables and undesirables as it relates to marriage. And what we want is we want you to participate in this session. We have a wonderful panel that I'm going to introduce you to in a minute, but we want you to participate in this session. And so if at any time during our presentation you have questions, please type the questions in the chat. If at any time during our presentation you have a comment that you want to make, we would want you to do that as well. And the reason why we do Zoom to YouTube is so that we can manage the space well, and also so that if we have an overwhelming number of persons, that we don't exclude any person from being able to join the session, since YouTube is pretty much unlimited. So thank you for joining us for our Family Life Enrichment series every Wednesday between Mother's Day and Father's Day. So I want to introduce to you two wonderful couples. I want to introduce to you Colin and Carla Edgel, and Jason and Angelina Cotton. So welcome, panel.
Thank you, Lennox, for having us.
Awesome. So very interesting. Pastors. These are all pastors, and they are persons who are really enjoying their marriage. They are family people that I respect and love. They're my friends. And so I am excited to have you join with us and to be able to, add some value to our couples as we go through this evening. So what I want to do first, though, is to get our folks to know you a little bit better. And so I'm going to ask the husbands if they would share with us a little bit about their family. So Colin, do you want to go first?
I'll defer to the Cottons.
So kind. You're so kind.
Okay.
It's before beauty.
Okay, all right. My darling wife Angelina and I, we've been married 14 years. So in this setting, I guess we would be the juniors. 14 very good years. We have two children, Jonathan and Sarah Lee. Jonathan is 11 and Sarah Lee is just turned 8. And we like to say that we are a Caribbean family because in our household, we have a Trinidadian, a Guyanese, a Bajan, and an ex-Trini. So we like to think of ourselves as a Caribbean family. We've served in ministry in Trinidad and Tobago in Evangelical Assembly, and now we serve with Pastor Martin Batiste and his wife Andrea Batiste in the Barbados Evangelical Assembly of Barbados. And we're very, very happy to be here. Very, very happy to be here this evening.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And let's go to Colin.
Oh, praise the Lord. I am Colin Edgel. This is my beautiful wife, Carla Edgel. We've been married this year, 27 years. What can I say? Our marriage has really been a blessing. I refer to my ministry as what gives me satisfaction, and my marriage is what gives me the solidity to do all the other things that I'm doing. When God says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtain his favor," he was 100% absolutely right, because I did find a good thing, and I like to think I've obtained the favor of the Lord. And so our journey, just like the Cottons, have been a really marvelous one. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We do have loud disagreements, but those disagreements never, cause us to storm through the door, go by mommy or daddy, or not that they have space for us, anyways. But we have been blessed we have, like the Cottons, two beautiful children, Angel and Nicholas. How many grandchildren? 4 or 5, I think, that we know of. And basically, that's it. And so we pastor and together the John Street Church of God, and Pastor Carla is the secretary of the assistant secretary of the General Assembly, and I am the chairman.
All right, beautiful. All right, so what we want to do this evening is we want to jump straight into our session, and I'm sure that the audience will get to know you a little bit better as you answer some questions. And I want to look at question 1 and just to get us moving. So the first question says, people in your culture are usually curious when they see persons of the opposite sex eating out together with persons other than their spouse. You, however, think that colleagues should be able to have coffee together or lunch together. Your workmate of the opposite sex has invited you to have dinner to discuss some upcoming plans for your office. Desirable or undesirable? Who's going to take the first shot at that? Desirable or undesirable? Angelina, you're smiling. You want to go first?
I think Jason was ready. He was ready to go.
Oh, he was ready to go.
I was going to say, Pastor Edgel, pass it over to me first. So it is only right. It is only right.
I'm all for platonic relationships and cordial relationships. We can't escape it. Our jobs, our vocations will cause us from time to time, put us in those situations. And so it all depends on the trust level, the communication level that you have with your wife, the understanding. I would like to think going on a dinner date to discuss office business is, that's taking it to a extreme that I think I would want to push back a little on. I mean, if it's lunch or something of that nature, I would like to think if I'm going to go with a work colleague to discuss work business at dinner, my wife has to be in the vicinity somewhere.
And as believers, as the word of God tells us, shun the very appearance of evil. So you don't want to get yourself involved in something, of such. A daytime thing is good because then, it's bright, everybody can see you. Might be a little hard to be tempted.
So you're saying then that you would, lunch is okay, but not dinner.
Yeah, I think we have to set limits and boundaries to protect our own integrity, our own, let's say integrity, so that, like my wife says, we have to shun the very appearance of evil. I'll tell you, as that thought arose, I remember the late Pastor Hyacinth Granham. I stopped a taxi for her one day, and I was opening the front door for her. And she smiled as she always did. And she says, "No, I'll sit at the back." And she went and she sat in the back. But when she came back and we were together in private, she said to me, the reason why I sat at the back of the taxi is because the only man's car I will sit in the front seat of is my husband. Because I don't want someone to see me yes, it may be a taxi, but I'm in the front seat with another man, and someone may get the wrong impression. And so I learned a valuable lesson from that. And so, that's just how we have to be cognizant of what we're doing, so that our good is not even spoken of, or what might be an innocent situation is blown out of proportion or taken otherwise.
In light of smartphones.
Okay. All right. So let's hear from the Cottons.
Yeah, well, I think that we share that perspective. It's about hedges, right? And it's about having wholesome relationships. For me, I often think that, I like to think of it if it were on the other foot. If my wife comes and tells me, tonight I have to go to dinner with a colleague, I would be asking, well, why dinner? You all could not have discussed this at work. Why am I not invited to dinner? Dinner is a kind of setting that is intimate in ways that lunch is not. So I would have a lot of questions if like as Pastor Ejun and his wife was saying, I would want to know, well, you all couldn't discuss this at lunch. Why only both of you all need to discuss this at dinner? You're the only two people on the team that could solve this challenge. So this would cause me a measure of discomfort. And I'm not going to do anything in my marriage that would cause discomfort either to my wife or myself. In addition to that, the whole thing about the car door, because if this woman is going to dinner with me and my wife is not there, she has to sit in the back seat. My wife made it very clear in our first year of marriage that the front seat is her seat. And if she is not in the car and someone is in the car, they travel in the back seat. I learned that very quickly. And these things are not legalistic things. It is not a matter of sin, but it is a matter of preserving your integrity, avoiding the appearance of evil, as was said.
Yeah, so in addition to avoiding the appearance of evil and integrity, I would think that maybe the other spouse also may have had a challenge with it. And in that setting, it is important for us to consider our spouse's feelings and respect their feelings on certain matters. You may think it's no problem because you may not see a challenge with it, but you still need to take into consideration your spouse, and that is showing love, that is showing respect to your spouse by saying, or if it is a situation where it is that you cannot avoid it, like for instance, if it is, it depends on the rank of the person, if it's your boss, right, or your supervisor, or somebody who has a higher rank over you, and they say, this is the time I can meet, and we need to have a discussion, then of course, boundaries will definitely have to be set in place. And this cannot be something that is often. This has to be maybe a one-time situation. And I in terms of our friendships as a family, we don't hold opposite sex relationships apart from each other, right? If it is somebody that he knows and he's well known with them, I have to know them as well, and vice versa, for us to call them friends, So that is one of the things that we do. And so it cannot be something that is consistent, and it has to have some sort of boundary in it. It should not be just because, and I guess, yeah, we will discuss some more of that with the follow-up questions. But one of the scriptures that I thought about is definitely the one with consider each other, right? I think that comes from Philippians 2:3 that says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others above yourself. So it's about consideration of the spouse's feelings as well.
Okay. I just have one question, one follow-up question, because I noticed that it seemed as though both couples were a little bit softer on breakfast or lunch as opposed to dinner. What happens if it's breakfast or lunch, but it seems to be recurring as opposed to being a one-off event?
Yeah, well, as I said before, why is it something that we are doing so often? That comes into question, and that is where the spouse needs to ask the questions and to pry some more, right? I do not think whether it is morning or lunch or dinner, it should be a recurring thing. That is really cause for concern, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
My question would be, what happened to Zoom?
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, it's working well for us tonight because Colin is in Guyana, and he's able to they're able to join us tonight. So it's great that we're able to do this. So I like that question. So let's go to number 2. Difficulty communicating and understanding each other's perspectives and needs can lead to misunderstandings and conflict. However, John and Jackie have accepted their contrasting communication styles has led them to not being able to solve the myriad problems that are surfacing in their marriage. John processes internally and seldom speaks. In fact, he shies away from any difficult conversation. Jackie processes externally and shares everything that is on her heart. She sees John as a cop-out, and he sees her as a nag. Desirable or undesirable situation there?
I think we might want to take that one first. Yeah, because definitely very early in our marriage, this was a situation we both found ourselves, and we decided, I am the one, I'm Jackie. Yes, I'm Jackie. I'm the one that likes to share. I like to deal with it right now. And on the other hand, I wouldn't call any names. That person, sometimes 2 days, 3 days, and we still haven't dealt with it.
We'll call the person John.
John takes slower to process. Let's just say that it takes time to process.
All right, so we had to definitely come to a compromise where that is concerned. And for me, I would think that I was right, because I think that we need to deal with the situation, that something needs to be done, so we should not wait. And for him, he needs a time, and I could not for the life of me understand why he needs 3 business days, 3 to 5 business days for us to handle a particular issue.
That has come down. Let us just say
yes.
that 3 business days has come down. It does not exceed that,
Yeah.
Right? The compromise that we
Yes,
arrived at.
definitely. And so for me, I had to temper my own eagerness to deal with the issue, and realize that, we're not the same people. We process things differently, and that he takes time. But of course, as he said, it could not be 3 days. And so I had to give him the time. Also, even in our discussions, when we would have discussions, I had to, of course, I speak from the heart, but I had to also go and speak, ask the Lord to give me some wisdom, because of course, sometimes the words comes out very harsh. And then, you hurt each other in the process. And so it's just going to God to ask for some wisdom as to, Lord, how do I say it to him, and what is the bigger picture in this situation? What do I really want? Do I want to win the argument? Do I want him to understand me? Or is it that, we want to, at the end of this discussion, we want to go away feeling like we've understood each other? And so it's just to really keep that heartbeat in the conversation. But both of us had to adjust. So both Jackie and John, they were incorrect. So we had to refine our methods.
And just to say briefly before we pass on to Pastor Jill on this, part of it is your and his wife. Part of it is how you grew up. In my home, in Angelina's home, they dealt with conflict frontally, right? But in my home, it was a home that conflict resolution wasn't something that I saw actively. So I had to learn how to deal with conflict in a wholesome way, right? And Angelina had to learn as well. Sometimes the heat of the moment is not the best time to engage a partner, right? And so we had to learn that. And 3 principles I think we try to incorporate when we're sharing those, what we call crucial conversations. Is what you're saying true? There must be truth, but truth alone is not enough, right? Is it kind? Because sometimes you're communicating truth, but you're not communicating it in love. You're communicating, as Angie said, to hurt. And that is another thing, especially when we're having these kind of crucial conversations. And is it necessary? Do you need to mention that now? And if we keep that in mind when we're having conversations like that, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? It creates a avenue for the Holy Spirit to kind of filter the myriad of thoughts going through our mind. That's it. Thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. The Edgels. Colin has pointed at you, Carla. I'm not sure why.
I don't know why.
You see, after y'all gone here and you in Barbados, and then I hear.
One of the things I've learned to do is not get into an argument in the heated moment. So I would just go about my business, disappear, be quiet, because I don't like the shouting match thing. And the fact that before I'm a Christian, I'm a person, right? And I've always been a person who defended myself physically. So I prefer to stay quiet because I'm the kind, I will lash out. So that's how I do it.
Well, as we say here in Guyana, teeth and tongue will meet. So at any given time, you're going to have sometimes loud disagreement. But I found one of the things that blessed me is it does not matter what the disagreement is, what the argument is. If we are arguing at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock is breakfast, at 7 o'clock, I get my breakfast. If we have a disagreement at 11:30 and 12 o'clock is lunch, I get lunch. And so, again, a man processes, and T.D. Jakes has an excellent book called He Emotions, and some sermons on this matter that will, be helpful if you want another perspective on the matter. And so we process things different. A woman is, she's about now. A man is as she's talking, he's going through all the different scenarios in his head. That's why it takes 3 days. And then he comes in 3 days later and says, I've been thinking about what you said. By the time that the woman, she's done bathed the children, gone to school, cooked lunch, and, she's thinking about that dress she saw in the at the store window. But the man has now come to say, can we talk about what you were saying? So, but we have to understand and realize, as Jason said, he grew up in an environment, and I didn't grow up in another environment. I grew up in a completely dysfunctional environment. Pastor Carl is another environment, and so sometimes those things will creep into your marriage. But we have learned that, hey, am I being selfish in the whole? That's the question I ask myself. Am I being selfish in my demeanor? Am I being selfish in my response, in what I'm withholding or what I'm giving? So at the end of the day, I think that once we get rid of the selfishness, all the other issues will resolve. And we have to learn that it don't matter how long we are together, as all of us can testify, whether it's 14, whether it's 27 or 30 years, as in the case of Lennox. At some point in time, you're going to find out something you didn't know about this woman. Wait, this woman, she does this. This guy does this stuff. So, what do? You do what you always do. You deal with it and you get over it and you move on, because at the end of the day, in my case, when I started to date Carla, I was looking for the strengths I needed in her. I wasn't looking for her weakness. And so I found out later on that she really had all these weaknesses. But by then, I was so into the strengths, and the strengths was what really was fueling me, that the weaknesses, I just put them on my shoulder, because I recognized that in all the areas that she was weak in were all the areas that I was strong in.
Right. So you didn't compete, you complemented each other.
No. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
again, all of the friends she have lost since we got married was because she decided to leave them. I never, whether it was male or female, and in some instances she had more male friends than female friends. And so all of those, I would come in, this is my friend, okay, from England, and I shake his hand, do what I have to do, and I'm gone. Because, at the end of the day, I also have to have a level of trust in her, that, this is what it is. What she says it is, that's what it is. And so a lot of times we will, negate a lot of the discussions and argument, quote unquote, if we would just, recognize that, life is too short, man.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I like how both of you answered, both couples.
I would just like to add something,
Sure.
Pastor.
Sure.
Just a little plug. See, the challenge many times is when it's how do you say what you have to say without hurting each other. And there's a book that Jason mentioned just now called Crucial Conversations. It gives you tools on how to say hard things well. And
Right.
I think that is it is essential for us, in order, even though we decided, okay, this is how we're going to deal with it. In that moment, we need to decide how we say things to each other matters. Because if you want what you saying, like, I'm the hard person, I want him to receive what I'm saying, I need to know how to say it to him, so to communicate that to him so that he will be able to receive it. And
Beautiful.
many times that is a challenge that I find we have, because, okay, as a hard person, we just want to say it as it is, and we need to be wary of what we say to each other in those moments.
Yeah.
And that's so true, Pastor. I just want to say that, I don't let a lot of people into my space. So Angie says that's the protection mechanism. She's one of the few people that could hurt me deeply. She could wound me.
Yes.
Because she has access
Right
to my heart that other
24/7.
people don't have. And I think what's important in these conversations is sometimes in the heat we weaponize our words. And the hurt that we cause to our spouse is so deep because, you know, she could hurt me. She knows how to hurt and we have
And
to be
I'm not
careful.
loud. I'm not loud.
Yeah, she's not loud, but she's piercing with words.
Easy
My God.
sticks, my heart, boy.
My God, she's very, she did a degree in communication and she studied that thing good because she knows how to use words, not foul words, you know, but she knows how to organize sentences, right?
Mhm. For
So,
effect.
for effect, for
Yeah.
deep and lasting and piercing effect to the bone and marrow. So we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that.
But
Yeah.
here's a tip that we say here in Ghana, you need to allow, and she would tell you, because she's a Guyanese, you let some things go through this ears and come straight through this one. Don't let it linger anywhere.
Oh my, yeah. I wanted to also just on this question, the whole idea of patience. The Bible says that love is patient.
Yes.
Love is patient, and I think sometimes the desire to be patient with each other is essential.
Yes.
Yeah, being patient with one another.
Yeah.
As it relates to immediacy, you know, as it relates to the whole idea of manner versus matter.
Right.
You know, not just like Jason said, speaking the truth, but how do you deliver that truth can determine whether or not I receive it. You know, because if the package is not a good package, I may find myself trying to defend something rather than receive it, you know. But there are times, for instance, where a person has processed the matter, thought about it, meditated on it, and the person comes and pours their heart out. And then they're not happy with your response because your response is very short. Your response doesn't match, you know, their heart as it relates to how they've poured out their words and their thoughts and their ideas. And sometimes it's because they have had enough time to think about it. They've maybe thought about it for weeks before they actually talked about it. But when they finally talk about it, you didn't have time to process it. Sometimes they just need to be patient with you. I remember early in our marriage, you know, we would have some of the same issues. And I would tell Sandra, well, you know, just give me a little bit of time to think about this. And she would ask me, well, does this mean that you're going to be planning your response? Do you need time so that you can plan your response? It's not that I was going to plan the response. It was that I just needed to think about it because I hadn't actually, you know, gotten a chance to process it maybe in the way that she did. So sometimes the you know, being able to be patient with each other is also a really essential aspect of communication too. Yeah. All right, so let's go to question 3. Question 3. I find this one very, very interesting. Recently, while watching a comedy, you heard the concept of a work spouse. A work spouse has been defined as a special platonic relationship with your work colleague, characterized by a close emotional bond, high levels of disclosure and support, and mutual trust, honesty, loyalty, and respect. Desirable or undesirable? It would be great if our folks on YouTube share with us whether they think these are desirable or undesirable as well, because we would get to see how they're thinking also. So please feel free to type in the chat, desirable or undesirable, and we are now at the point of looking at the whole concept of a work spouse, where a person said, well, this is my work husband, this is my work wife. How do you guys see this scenario?
I don't work, so I ain't got a work wife. But again, you know, there are some people will hit it off in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
They will just connect on that level. And again, that goes back to a level of trust between, and you know, what what your relationship, how strong is your relationship with your wife or husband to handle that kind of thing. You know, I mentioned it early on. I believe in platonic and cordial relationships. And somewhere along the line, we as husbands have to give our wives, and our wives have to give us as husbands the space to have those platonic and cordial relationships that might appear more on the surface than it really is in terms of the emotional connection. Because we talk about work wife and work husband, then next thing you know, there's an emotional connection between the two individuals, because the work husband or wife may have a trait that you long for in your wife or your husband. And so that trait, you know, now let's put the spoke in the wheel. Sometimes your work husband or your work husband is gay. So that relationship has a whole new different connotation, because this is the reality. We're living in a real world, and this is the reality. So what do you do then? Or on the other hand, your work wife might be a lesbian. So how do we? So there's a lot of nuances to our relationships in the workplace today, and this is the same in church. What about those pastors and leaders who have secretaries, who are there on a day-to-day basis? The pastor goes to the office every day. The secretary comes in. She's the one with all the, you know, the schedules and this and that and the other. And so there's a close relationship there as well. So these things can happen in the church as well. So how do we juggle it? It really depends on the level of maturity between all the individuals involved, husbands and wives, and the quote unquote wife, work wife or work husband. So you know,
but in terms of the branding, do you like it? You find it desirable or undesirable? I mean, calling the person your work husband, or calling the person your work wife.
I wouldn't use wife, or I wouldn't use husband, because I remember Jason talking earlier in a similar situation that words have different meaning. When he talk about going to dinner and going to lunch or breakfast, when you talk about taking someone to dinner, it's a whole new different ball game to taking someone to lunch. So again, we have to be careful with words. Why can't be my work buddy or my work sister? Why it has to be work wife or work husband?
Guess it's not as cute.
And not as troubling either.
All right. So far in the chat, we have undesirables. We have a number of people saying undesirable. So
Yeah.
the Cottons, yes.
Yeah, before I let Jason go, it's a no for me. Undesirable.
Okay.
Because even the very connotation of the word spouse, you know, is very strong. And I do not want to have to share my spouse with nobody else. I'm that kind of person. Very territorial, you know, my spouse is my spouse.
Right.
And I believe God has the same idea when he says that, you know, no man can have served two masters. He made him one. All right. So yeah, I'm not for that type of thing.
Okay. I remember some years ago, I'm not sure Carla's gonna want me to say this, but some years ago, you know, the whole idea of first lady.
Yes.
We were referring to her as first lady. She said she doesn't like it because if you say first, it means that it's possible that there's a second and a third.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
this is such a very important thing. I came back from Antigua last week, and I do a lot of traveling for work. And on that trip, I came back and told my wife the same thing. There were two persons in the delegation we traveled with, and they were referring to themselves as my work husband, my work wife. This is last week I'm talking about, right?
Wow.
And I observed how every time those words were spoken, how the interaction between those persons became more and more less platonic, meaning that they started to have these kind of mock arguments, and they started to be a little bit more playful and physical. And I'm observing this thing, right? I'm observing this thing, and I'm telling myself, but this thing cannot be healthy. Because now, in their mind, whether real or perceived, because other people find it fun, right? They are playing into this work husband and work wife role, right? And I wanted to know, well, when did this stop? So do you walk your work wife back to her room? I just being honest, right? Do you walk your work wife back to her room? Do you tuck her in, or you go in your own room? I just want to be very real about this, right? Because this thing really, really concerned me. The issue is when the boundaries become blurred, they could easily be crossed. And that is my challenge. Work husband and work wife creates in your mind and emotionally a blur as to where the emotional attachment stops. And once you have that blurriness, I mean, one disagreement with my wife and my work wife there, and let us say she has, well, first of all, I have no work wife, but you understand what I'm saying? You have this person who is their so and so work wife. So I find it a very dangerous thing, but I find that in workplaces, people tend, especially people that travel, because I find that it comes up a lot in this travel context where people feel very liberated and very want to engage in ways that they don't usually engage. And so I think that is definitely a no-no.
To listen, were either of these two individuals married to someone else?
Both of them were not married as far as I am aware. But even so, I think that the two persons are in relationships.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, like, I would think about myself. Imagine you're in a relationship with someone, you're not married, and you hear that this person have a work husband or a work wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some comments in the chat. So far everybody has said undesirable. So nobody is excited about this concept of the work spouse.
Pastor Boyce, I just remembered something. I remember there was one point when we had just gotten married, and even in simple things like as a Christian, somebody else, and somebody had approached my husband to want to do a Bible study with him at work.
It worked. It was a work Bible study. If you talk about Jesus, I mean, come on.
Right. Yes.
I was like, that's foolishness, too much foolishness. Because first of all, he leaves very early. We don't even have that time to have devotions and Bible study together. But you're leaving to go to work to have Bible study with somebody that I don't even know. So help them grow in their relationship with God. No.
So you missed out on having a deeper understanding of the word.
I don't know where the young lady's relationship with God is.
The Holy Spirit.
I don't know.
He's a helper. He's a helper. He leads you into all truth.
That's true. So we have pretty much everyone saying undesirable. Some people are saying that work colleague is sufficient. And pretty much that you shouldn't call somebody other than your wife, your wife, or and I guess by the same extension, somebody, not somebody who's your husband, somebody else. Work buddy is one of the other things that somebody suggested. So persons are right in your corner on this one. So we have a fourth question or scenario. After being married for 10 years, George suddenly started asking Mary about things from her past, which happened before they met. Mary believes that everything that happened in her life before they met has nothing to do with George and that they should not be his concern. George is constantly saying that they should both come clean about the past and that he does not want any surprises. However, Mary is sticking to her guns. Desirable or undesirable?
Go ahead. Mary.
Who's going to touch this one first?
It's undesirable to me. I don't want to know anything about your past.
Okay. So you figure that in terms of disclosure, you're saying that should be it's up to Colin what he wants to share. And if he doesn't choose to share that, you're not interested.
Yes,
Okay.
there are some things in my past I will never tell her.
Okay.
Never, ever tell, not even on my deathbed. And you know what? There's some things in her past she will never, ever tell me.
Colin,
And that's,
you know we're going to meet in a few weeks in Tobago.
yes.
I want you to sit down with me for a half hour so that you can tell me some of these things. I'm not going to tell Carla, promise you. But I'm curious. I'm suddenly very, very curious, right? As a man of God, I'm very curious. As a shepherd.
But that's the reality. Because first of all, it's not going to add anything meaningful. If anything, it may cause more concern. And it's not like I was a serial killer, I could tell you that, or serial rapist or something like that.
Okay.
But it's just
that helps. That helps.
Huh?
That helps.
But that should resolve all the issues. But the reality is, again, I've never even asked. I've never even I'm not, because I remember something we were talking about one day, and I say my ex, and I got up to X, and Carla turned to me and says, "Don't bring that demon in here."
I just don't.
So, and again, the truth is, the reality is, I've had past relationships, but it has never been, I've never had to discuss, I've never, one day says, what's your name used to do so? Or I couldn't take that with what's her name. I've never had that conversation, and vice versa, So at the end of the day, there are things in the past, That's why it's called past. It's over and done with. I mean, we want to go back in the past to find out whether she would, if she was a man before she became a woman, or vice versa. So at the end of the day, no, I don't think I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it will add anything to the relationship. If anything, it may turn your relationship on its head.
Okay. Just before we go to the cottons, I just want to say that the chat is very, very quiet on this one. Nobody has said anything at all. Not even desirable or undesirable. Nobody has said anything. So I'm hoping that maybe in a minute or two we get somebody in the chat to actually say something about this. We have at least 136 people online because we have like 68 couples. So it means that somebody has to have some kind of opinion about this other than the panel. So I'll see what the folks in the chat say. But let's hear from the Cottons on this one.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting question, because for us, the first thing is that, I mean, 10 years pass and you all discuss these things. So how these things just kind of resurface. I mean, in our relationship, we had a unique situation because we lived in different countries, right? And our conversations when we were determining whether we wanted to get married had to be very open, so that we could really assess. So we had, I would say, a lot of disclosure early on, right? But if 10 years has passed, you're having this happy marriage, and then all of a sudden someone wants to share something. Now, this thing is tricky because by sharing this thing, is it going to protect the person from physical harm? This is what I would want to know. Are you sharing something that if you don't share it, the person will be physically harmed, right? I think that's important. Is this information critical to a life decision, right? If that is the case, and you must share because the person will be harmed, then what you share and how you share is also important, right? Do you need to be going into all kinds of details and that kind of thing? Because as Pastor Edwin and his wife said, you may be opening some wounds here that may be very difficult to heal. And I remember that there were times, just to be very honest, when we were serving in ministry in another country, and some hurtful things were being said, and I know difficulty that my wife was having in terms of managing the responsibilities, and I did not share those things with her, because I did not think that sharing it would help in any way. It would not help her. I just dealt with the situation and shielded her from it, because I did not see any good end coming from sharing. In fact, I thought it would hurt more in terms of the role that we were trying to function. So I think we need a lot of wisdom and practical wisdom in this. I think that if it is a situation whereby you had a child and your wife never knew about this child, and somehow the child is coming back into the picture, this is something that you may want to have a conversation of, because this is something that's going to materially affect you all, right? But I think you have to use a lot of wisdom, because a lot of questions will come up. Why didn't you tell me this before? This is such a big thing. So I think you really need to use a lot of wisdom in determining, is it worth it? Is it worth going into this thing? What would be the benefit of this? What would be the effects of it?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also strongly believe, I advocate for people having these discussions prior to marriage, so that, I personally, for me, I felt like in order for me to live free, I needed to share certain significant things with my husband, so that he knows who he's getting married to. And I think that was relevant for me. And that's really, and sharing sometimes help to alleviate lots of problems down the road. And as Jason said, it's just a wisdom as to what you share, but there's certain essential things that needs to be said, and we would know some of which of those things are important and critical to us moving forward. Maybe not, I know a big issue today, I know on social media there's a big issue where people are talking about your body count, right? Um, there's that issue whether you should share with your partner or not. I am not going to say how people should deal with that, but I think it certainly can be a situation you talk about because it could have effects, things about your background, how you grew up, your experiences, if you had like childhood sexual abuse, if you had different situations, those things you should talk about because it affects the person. It can affect, and if that person isn't healed, you can see certain things, certain traits going to. So you may not understand why the person may be behaving how they're behaving, but because you understood, because they have shared, or you took the time to find out, you now understand why this person is the way they are. So there are certain essential things that needs to be shared. And it may not be all before marriage, but even if it comes up 10 years after, as Jason said, you have to look at what is the point, how is it going to benefit the other person. But I strongly believe in being free and sharing. I believe that when God put Adam and Eve in the garden and he talked about being naked and unashamed, that is not also to the physical intimacy, but also the emotional intimacy as well. And I like that for me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to just share with you some of what's going on in the chat. We have Patrick Bellamy, who's saying that subjects should not be brought up way into a marriage relationship. If it is a cause for concern, it should have been discussed prior to the marriage. Yeah. We have Paul Osborne, who said, agree to disclosure early in the relationship. There's an engagement period. And this is maybe too long in terms of statutes of limitation. Can be applied there. And then we have a question. What if somebody wants to tell you something from the past about your spouse? Should you say that you do not want to hear?
No, you shouldn't be entertaining people telling you things about your spouse. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, what gives someone the audacity to make them think that they can tell you some, especially if it has to do with your spouse's past? Because I mean, you're in a relationship. Again, like in my past, I can either defend or I can either say yes or no to anything in my past. I don't think there's anything in my past that at this stage in my marriage that our marriage can weather if it comes up. But like we're saying, how we go about and how we approach it, yes, because you know, sometime in the truth of the matter, in the heat of infatuation, you know, you overlook a lot of things, even things that are red flags that are right in your face. But because, you know, you, as Yellowman say, you walk 1.5 miles, you know, the bus stopped running and you know, and she's saying the bus is going to stop running and you say, no, I'm going to walk, you know, it's all right because you're in love. But then you realize somewhere down the road, how do you deal with those things? And yes, they're going to always going to have somebody who will want to bring up your past, especially if they see your past not affecting your present. They're gonna, you know, always gonna say, I didn't know you were any small. So, you know, he did this or he did that. Or at some point in your marriage, it has to be able to weather any storm.
Right.
Yeah, but it really matters. I'm not saying to entertain the person. I think, you know, if you lay out, it doesn't cross certain lines, like has he murdered someone? You know, did he commit fraud? Something like that. You'd want to know if that is, you know, because I see a lot of stories, documentaries of people having these double lives. Right. When they were one person before and now the ex-wife or ex-husband could tell you who they are, right? So it depends, to me, it depends on what is the information, what is the nature of the information. And it is not just a community gossip. You know, you have facts. you have receipts about these things that can potentially harm the family or children. So those things, I think you can ask the questions in that regard.
But for me, I am not entertaining anybody coming and telling me anything about my wife.
Even if I was a fraudster?
Yes. I know
Yes,
the character of the person is very important here, right? A random man or woman is come and want to tell me something about my wife. I'm not entertaining you, right? If the person is of a character, they too must understand and they must know that this is not you can't just come and whisper a thing, I hear that kind of thing. I'm not entertaining you like that at all, right? Because unless I know your heart, unless I know your character, unless I know all of that, I'm not entertaining you in that space because you have no authority in, for me, my heart is a closed space, that access is for God, and I have a lot of friendships and associations, right? But for persons to come and you want to speak about my wife, no, this is not a space that you need to come correct in order to because I am not entertaining and I've drawn these lines. Part of it is because I trust my wife.
right.
I trust that she makes good decisions. I'm not saying that she would not make errors, but I trust that she makes good decisions. And because I trust her, I believe that if there is something that needs to be said, that we have enough openness among us to say XYZ, and then we deal with it. As Pastor just said, if there's a matter we need to deal with, we deal with it internally, right? No one will have to come on the outside to help us to, our communication is not at that place. Our communication right now is if we've made a mistake, let us address the mistake among us. So because of that, I'm saying I am not entertaining you as if I need to go on the outside to hear what is wrong. No, I could just go to her.
Yeah, but I don't want to prolong the questioning, but I just believe it's a valid question and that people may have. And I just remember this situation that the renowned CC Winans, she spoke about her husband who she found out, I can't remember how many years after, that he was imprisoned in Japan. And when they were going to a show in Japan, if it's Japan or China, it could be either or. She then realized that when he went through, that she didn't see a husband, and that's because the authorities, they came and took him because he was banned from that place, right? So she was wondering. She was wondering what had happened, and this is something that he didn't share with her, and I believe that he should have, right? Because there are things that happen that would come back to haunt you later on, and so those kinds of things, I believe that, so I think it's a valid thing, but of course it is a matter of what the subject is and how it can affect you in the future. Yeah.
I guess there's a lot more we can discuss on this. But I just want us to move on a little bit. We have a comment. Colleen is saying you should also consider that people change sometimes for the better. So you should not hold their past against them. But I agree that in relationships, there has to be some measure of disclosure. And I guess you can decide together what that would look like. And I agree also that if there are things that are so significant that if your spouse hears about them, it could cause a little bit of anxiety, or it could be complicated, like in the case that Angelina spoke about, that those things really should be shared, because then it doesn't come across as though you have specific secrets that you want to withhold. Which could become complicated in the future. Yeah. Okay, so Helen and Harry have a blended family of 3 children. The two, Helen and Harry, are polar opposites in just about every way, including their previous family cultures. Their most recent conflict has been about how their children should be raised, what they should be allowed to do, what they should be allowed to wear, what chores they should be assigned, and so on. Harry feels that since he is the man of the house, he should have the last say in these types of matters. Desirable or undesirable?
Hmm.
You look like you want to say.
I
Well,
hope it's not Harry Hippie.
Colin, we're missing your camera.
What did I do? Oh, I took it off. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Colin.
No, I was saying I'm hoping it's not Harry Hippie. Again, these things, all these things are put on the table. You don't work out these things after you get married. My thing is, my wife has my name. If I have a child outside of our marriage and that relationship is dissolved and that child has my name and he's living or she is living with my wife, the child has to understand that we are part of one family because she has his name and he has her name. So yes, she may not be his biological mother, but because she has his name and she's my wife, and in the house, she's my wife, and for the children, she's mother. So at the end of the day, my expectations that she would mother you. And my expectation of her is that she would mother you, and my expectation of you is that you would be a child. Because at the end of the day, we are all one family because we all have the same name. And so again, it's all a matter of sitting down and communicating. These things ought not to be rocket science. I mean, okay, in the interest of the child, we have to hold one head. In the good old days, I said, wait till your father come home. Why wait till your father come home? If the child needs discipline, discipline the child. If you want further discipline when daddy come home, then that can happen. But again, don't touch my child. No, it's not your child anymore. It's our child because we're under one roof. We're under one banner. So children will play those parents who don't have a unity and cohesion among themselves in relation to rearing the child. So at the end of the day, I'm the man of the house. No, she's the man of the house. I'm the man of the road. So I make sure the house have all that it has so she can manage. So I think we need to recognize that I might be the man of the house, but my wife is a co-equal in the whole management of the affairs of the house and our family. So because what happens if I'm not there? Jason talked about going away for work. What happens when he leaves? Is we gonna wait till Andrew's gonna wait until he comes back home to discipline one of the children while he's away? No. It's a child, well, you can't do me nothing because daddy is not home. But the tone has to be set by both adults. The children gonna follow the tone the adults set.
Okay. Let's hear the Cottons before we go to the chat.
yeah, I think the thing is that how do you understand, what do you understand your headship to mean, right? To me, headship means that I must be a role model. right? So if we say these are the values in our home, if respect, etc., that I must be modeling that for the children to see. To me, headship means I take responsibility, regardless of the decision that is made. I am taking accountability. I'm not going to say at the end, that was the decision you make, so that is why it turned out this way. No, I'm going to be accountable for decisions that are made in our home. But I don't believe that because you're a head, you should function independently. A head works with a body, and so it is with Christ and the church. And so if my wife has very practically, we were doing some work on our home. It had matters concerning the color of the house, the trowel text to use, the grade of trowel text, the curtains. You feel I bother myself with these decisions? I asked my wife, who has a lot more expertise in this area, what do you think? And when she tells me that, then that is my thought. I am, whether the curtains are lavender or brown or green, I am not going to concern myself with that. And when she tells me it should be green, well, that is what it is. So I think that a wise man would understand the strengths of your spouse and allow your spouse to play to those strengths, right? And if you're wise enough to give people autonomy. Now, at the end of the day, you're taking responsibility, right? Regardless of if it go right or wrong, if the house color and come out good, you can't say, you see, you choose that color. You can't do that, right? You have to take responsibility. But I'm saying that for me, this is the key of headship. It's about understanding her strengths and allowing her to operate in her strengths, right? And letting her strengths inform the decision. Now, if we can't come to an agreement and a decision needs to be made, I like to say, well, I have 51% of the votes, right? So if we can't meet 50-50, then I have 51% of the votes. I have to make a decision and then I'll stick to it. But in the back of my mind, if there's a strength that she has, I would defer to her strength.
Yeah. And I think both parties need to know that they're acting in the best interest of the family, to have one goal, be one-minded about where it is that we want our family, what do we want it to look like, and so to be in oneness about those decisions, thinking about the children as well. And so it's not just, and sometimes some families, they sit down and they have a discussion among each other just to hear. And then at the end, they come up with, okay, this is the decision that we've made to move forward. So everybody feels like, they're involved and that their feelings and desires are being heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking that in blended families, there are things that have already been established. And now you're merging. And it happens with all relationships, but especially with a blended family, you are now merging, I guess some things that you have established as the modus operandi in terms of parenting, and they may look slightly different. So as you bring everybody together, children may have grown to expect certain things and not to expect other things. So it probably takes a process, communication process, and maybe the acceptance that you may have a few turbulent waters to deal with, and maybe view each time that there is turbulence as an opportunity to learn and grow as a family. But having your goals and your ideals, knowing what you're aiming for, like you said, Angelina, helps you to kind of make the best decisions in the interest of the family, because it's important to know what you want. Because if you know what you want, you know what you're aiming for, then the various challenges that you have give you an opportunity to work with them and work through them toward reaching whatever goals you've set for yourself and for your family. All right. It's 8:48. Jacqueline is saying, share ideas and seek the best solutions. And we have about 12 minutes, so we just want to look at a couple other things quickly. So if there are any persons in the chat, you have a question, a burning question, or a comment you want to make, now would be an excellent time to do that so that our panel may be able to have a little bit of time to deal with it before we wrap up. But Anne and Andy have been married for over 20 years. Anne complains that Andy does not show her enough attention anymore and is hardly romantic. She is bored in the marriage. Andy, however, thinks that this is just one of the seasons of marriage and that she can't expect their relationship to have the same dynamics after so many years. Sometimes they sit in silence with little to say to each other. Desirable or undesirable? I think everybody's muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yes.
I know, I was saying undesirable.
Undesirable.
You know, it's life is what you make it. Again, you have to create ways. You know, you have to travel, you have to do things. Go for a drive, go for a walk. I mean, there's so many things we can do. Again, yes, our bodies change. Or no, we're not as enthusiastic about what at 50 what we were at 30. So at the end of the day, again, you have to. I mean, we talk with one of the things that is characteristic of our marriage is that we are always laughing and talking stupidness with each other. I mean, she says, come in with something, I have an instant retort and it's one big laughing. You know, something, I might do something and she say, you love your wife because, and you know, so there are ways and means. I mean, we're over 20 years, so it takes a lot of energy, if you will, to not be monotonous and do and not, you know, go through the same routines or emotions. Sometimes absent make the heart grow fonder. So you know, sometimes you may need to send your wife, go visit your sister down in Timbuktu, you know. Jason don't have that problem because he travels for his work. So I just came back from overseas. I mean, I'm at the airport and I'm left yet, and I'm getting a text. I miss you. Really? You know, and I haven't left yet. A rule of thumb, by the way, is that I don't go away by myself for more than a week. So once it's over a week, you know, she has to come. So if you're inviting me anywhere and it's more than a week, you better make provisions for her to come. And so Andy needs to get some new hobbies.
Okay. So is Anne fair in her assessment of in your opinion of the situation?
I don't know why you asked me to answer for the woman. Say what you think, honey. Anne complains that Andy doesn't show her enough attention.
But I've never had Anne's experience, so I'm
Okay.
sure.
I smother her.
Colin is trying to hold back the smile, but we can see it in his face.
No, hold it back here.
can
No,
see it in
hold it
his
back.
face.
I smother her.
And
Okay.
even with our question before, you know, we've raised a lot of children in our home
Okay.
that want our children. We will take children from church if their parents have situation. We will take them in. You know, so we've had different experiences that some persons may never experience. As they may never, you know, venture out in those areas.
Okay.
And so we're never bored.
Never bored. I like that. Yes, I can see Angelina is ready for this one. Go ahead.
Not really. I was enjoying the responses, the Edgel. Yeah, but and Anne could temper her expectations because she could also initiate and do things.
Right.
But I think in this case, Andy is being lazy.
Okay.
Andy is lazy because I mean it could be a lot of things could be happening because sometimes people have so much going on in their marriage, maybe financial situations, whatever. But those situations should not stop you from investing and taking time to initiate things to do with your spouse. And in marriages, we recognize that one person may be stronger at that than the other. And sometimes that person who is stronger can perhaps take the initiative to arrange certain things. Not that Andy shouldn't try, but they can arrange certain things. I think many of the challenges sometimes that we see a lot of those things on movies, the romance things where the man woo's the woman and this is his responsibility. I do feel like that sometimes, but I believe that, both an effort should be made on both parties. It should not just be one expecting the other, but they both should take the initiative to let's do something. It could be simple. We like to sit and watch movies together. Sometimes when he's away, we send each other memes. Well, I would send him more memes so that we can laugh and do things together. So it's different things. Sometimes I initiate the dates and just let him dress and come for them.
Right.
And so yes, but it must be on both parts. It can't be just me. He has to take initiatives at times. And so I just think they need to both work on how and to talk about how it is that what is it that makes you feel happy? How can I do certain things and better? And you can have that kind of conversation. And so he needs to be interested and not think that the different season, because it's a different season, that means you cannot do anything. Because as seasons change, methods and the ways we do things should change to adjust to our season, but it doesn't take away the meat of it. I should not feel neglected and he should not feel neglected either.
I think what Anne really needs is a baby.
After 20 years.
Exactly, after 20 years, it's a baby she needs. But also, we have completely different interests. Completely different things that we're interested in, but yet still at times I have to show some interest in the things that she's interested in. And so even though I'm not interested in it, I'll sit down and I'll watch, I'll participate, I'll be a part. But the thing is, we have complete different interests. And I have, from day one, I've never tried to make her happy. I've never tried to make her happy because I could give her the Taj Mahal today. And tomorrow I do one of the things that I burp or something and she's ready to flip the whole Taj Mahal upside down. But again, at the end of the day, we have activities we do together. Our friends are completely different to my friends. I can count mine on one hand. Hers, talk to her all hours of the night and all kinds of stuff.
I'm a mother.
So, we have to have different things that occupy our time. Our joke, we'll be watching a movie. I mean, we put on, I want to watch this movie. And 2 minutes into the movie, all I'm hearing is, woman is fast asleep, Our joke, if she doesn't have a bath, she will not sleep for the rest. You see, the minute she has a bath, that's it. It is like she bathes sleep on her body. So and again, the longer you're married, it's easy to find excuse of being bored. it's easy to find excuse of why I'm bored or this would bore me and this would bore me. But thankfully for me, I don't, as Pastor Carl says, we don't have that problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
actually, this sounds coming to you, Angelina. Actually, this sounds like something that we may need to come back another time and spend, because it feels like something that I guess maybe a lot of couples struggle with secretly.
Yes.
Or you know, people suffer in silence, and they just tolerate a relationship, rather enjoy it rather than enjoy it, that kind of thing. And they're committed to it, and as a result, they know they're not going anywhere, they just stick with it, but they really wish that there were some other dynamics at play. Yeah, Angelina.
With age,
Yes.
that big gap is one, and another one of the things that causes that kind of issue is when we hear people say today daddy issues. So some folks, you know, because they didn't have a father to show them all this love and attention, they come into a marriage and they want it from the husband. And so, like you said, it needs, we can talk about it another time, because I counsel people with those kind of issues. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I was
Carla.
saying, yes, I was saying that sometimes, because you would see sometimes in some marriages that, especially for the mother, she would have spent a lot of time investing into the child, and the parents, when they don't take the time to invest in each other, when the children have gone off to university and they get married and so on, they don't know what to do with themselves. And so at that point in time, there's no children to look after, you know, there's not much to do. And then both of you don't know how to relate to each other. So the encouragement is really to ensure that, you know, in your marriage, that you do take that time to cultivate a good relationship, so that after the children leave, that you still know how to be with each other, to exist together healthily. Yeah.
Beautiful. Actually, we had a little period a few months ago where both our children were overseas. And that was fantastic.
Exactly.
When one came back, we were wondering why they came back so quickly.
Exactly.
What's the problem here, you know?
Stay a little longer.
Yeah. Well, it's 9:01, so we're kind of pretty much out of time. But
we can still go to the other one, the last one.
Colin really wants to do the last question, so we're gonna do that.
Yes.
For Colin. Hunter's mother always seems to find a way to meddle in the business of his family. She turns up unexpectedly and always seems to be appraised of whatever challenges they're dealing with. Hunter's wife has repeatedly mentioned that she's uncomfortable with third-party involvement in delicate matters of their relationship. She often tells Hunter that his mother has an extraordinary gift of discernment, or that he tells her what is going on in their family. Is this desirable, or is this undesirable?
I have the most wonderful mother-in-law in the world. I wish I could bottle her and sell her to wives who have mother-in-laws like Hunter's. She's a joy to be around. She's fun to be around. I mean, we talk stupidness all the time. I mean, she is just an amazing woman. We have never had any of those challenges, even at times when she had to be with us. I mean, I don't have that problem. So I'm sorry, Hunter.
Yeah.
Can't relate to you.
Well, Carla, ensure that you let your mom know what Colin said, right? I believe that's why he's getting some points tonight. So I believe that's why he asked specifically to have that last question, so that he could get some extra points, right?
In fact, Lennox, that's the relationship with our whole family.
Right. That's a good thing.
Our brothers, our sisters, is the same thing.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would just like to say on this, you know, sometimes we blame the mother-in-law, but I would tell you sometimes it might be the son. I grew up with my mother. My mother and I are very, very close. My mother was like my best friend, right? And the thing is that when a man transitions into a marriage relationship, right, you need to remember now that you have to leave and cleave,
Yes,
right?
sir.
The thing that you used to share before. So again, my mother is not prying, but you had a relationship before where everything you was telling her. I tell my wife some of the things I told my mother, and she said, "You tell your mother that." I said, "Yes." My mother, that kind of way, she used to lure me into her room on a Friday evening, buy a box of
Yeah.
KFC, which would be the chefettes in Barbados, and make me just have to sing like a bird. She would find out everything that happened in the week. She had a way of getting information out of me. It was amazing. I hope I have that same superpower with my children. So what I'm saying is that, but I had to learn that now that when I got married, that you know I have to cleave to my wife and leave my mother, meaning that when my wife and I have things we need to deal with, I can't go and run it by my mother first to get her opinion, right? She will be willing, of course, to hear, but is that creating the environment? So I'm saying, even if you have a good mother-in-law, like you know, I have an excellent mother-in-law, but I'm speaking about now as a man or as a woman, we must too remember what the scripture says in order to have a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that spouse should be the one, if the mother-in-law is meddling, the spouse whose mother it is should be that one to speak and put the limits on that person. It shouldn't be that, you know, I have to go and speak to his mother, or, you know, vice versa. We know this is our parents. We know what relationship we have. You need to set boundaries with your mother and your relationship. And it could be a father too, because sometimes fathers
Yeah.
meddle.
True.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this discussion tonight. This was excellent. This was excellent. I just want to share with you a couple other things from the chat before I give you a chance just to say, you know, some closing thoughts. Any things you want to leave with the couples who are here. We peaked at 74 couples tonight, which is really great. You know, so you were able to add value to, you know, 148 lives. You know, and me, 49. You know, as we discussed together. So, this is great, and I know that we need to do this again. Sooner than when we have our next Family Life series, because couples are 360. We do this every day, you know, and I think that if there are any ways that we can help each other, build each other up, support one another, and so on, we should do all those things. So Colleen said this was very undesirable. The last one. Yeah, but we had Stephen earlier who prefers the work buddy rather than the work spouse. We have Naomi Rollins who also says that the whole idea of the work spouse is troubling, you know, and highlights the fact that the enemy is crafty and cunning and clever. And
We should mention that the Rollins are celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary this year.
yes, I should do that. I should do that. So these are persons with lots of experience, not only in terms of leadership, but in terms of marriage, you know, marriage as well, ministry and marriage. That's wonderful. 50 years, beautiful, two beautiful people as well. So the idea about if the past is about a health issue, it may be important if it has genetic concerns as the couple, you know, plan to have children. So we have a few comments that I didn't get to share with you. But from what I saw in the chat, persons really enjoyed this session as well. And it was stimulating because it caused them to send some questions and also some comments. So I just want to give you a chance just to say a closing word. So we're going to go with Colin and Carla.
As the man of the house, I'll tell you what. Go ahead. Well, 27 years ago, I believe that the woman at my right hand was God's gift to me. And I've treated her like that from that day to this day. And my goal is to treat her like that until one of us is no more. And so I'm invested in my relationship. I'm invested in my marriage, in my family. It means everything to me at the end of the day. We've never in 27 years of marriage, I've never stormed through the door and go by my mother or my brother, or took a suitcase of clothes or a bag of clothes or what have you. We've never had a disagreement in our 27 years of marriage that caused us to claw at each other and fight each other and not do the things that we are obligated to do to each other as husband and wife. And so I thank God for that. And it's all because we put God first in our marriage. He is the glue that keeps us together. As I said, I believe that she's God's gift to me, so I treat her like that. And so, in all honesty, she's been everything that a man could want in a wife, a mother, a soulmate, a partner in ministry. She makes my life easy. It does not mean we don't disagree. It does not mean that we don't have challenges, but I love her to death, and I will continue to do so. And so, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Amen. Well said. We're still going to have that little sit down. Just
as long as you bring Johnny Walker Blue Label, we can talk our heads off.
No, we're not bringing that, but we're gonna sit and chat. I'll bring you a plus from Barbados. Yeah.
Been a while since I had one of those.
Yeah, I'll bring you one.
It's the first energy drink,
I know.
That's
so that'll stimulate you to talk. You to talk. Yes. Jason and Angelina.
Yeah, I want to say that for me, I want to end by saying that what's most important that I've learned in our 14 years is that encourage each other to grow in your relationship with God individually. We have seen that when you support each other to continue to grow in your relationship with God, the Holy Spirit does things in your spouse's life that you cannot do in a lifetime.
Yes.
This is not a religious thing I am saying here. This is a very real thing. If you encourage your spouse to grow and you support their growth, and in your household you create an environment where the Holy Spirit will dwell, the Holy Spirit will do things that we cannot do in our lifetime. And so I think the thing I've learned most is to support that environment in the home, because all of the things that you're concerned about, look at God. God would blow your mind as to what he could do in your spouse's life. So I hold on to that, and when you allow God to be the center of your home as well, it shapes even those difficult conversations. Because when we're having difficult conversations, one of the things is that we bear in mind that would this glorify God, and I think that is where I want to end.
My encouragement, yes, is to have a continually hard posture to submit to God's word and bringing all the glory to him, because as Jason said, once you as a believer decided your thing is to please God, he would teach you how to love your spouse the way you need to love your spouse. And so once you develop your relationship with him, you know, it will take once. I think the best marriages consist of people who are both wholly surrendered to God.
Yes.
And he is well able to help that marriage to flourish because both persons are submitting. And so you would see a healthy relationship. And I want to leave this scripture, Ephesians 4:32, I believe it was. Yes, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgive you. And just to be kind, tender-hearted, that's a big one, and forgiving, and that's important. I think we will see our marriages flourish. Love our neighbor if we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Yeah.
Awesome. This was a fantastic session, and I want to thank you guys so much. Thank you to the Edgels, and thank you to the Cottons for the value that you brought to our Family Life series for 2024. For all of our guests tonight, thank you for being on. And our Family Life series continues next week with a session with Bishop Kenroy Burke. And then after that, we have our family fun evening. So we are going to be ending with a bang. So that should be a really, really fun evening as we get together in person. All the other sessions are online. So I want to thank you so much for being with us for the Desirables and Undesirables. Special thanks to our panel, and may God bless you. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.